Dear children of God, Gospel of John, 12th chapter, 24th verse. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. These are the words of Jesus Christ. He is not speaking about botany here. Every atom in the nature, God gave it to His children. Every creature born in the nature, every bird, animals. When we think about all living creatures, you can see God in them. We can see our future too. Letter to Romans, 1st chapter, read 20th verse. God's invisible attributes. God is invisible, but through nature He is visible, not as the one with ears, nose, hands, legs. How is He visible? Look at the sun. It's glowing. It's giving light, giving heat. It destroys many germs. When we question what is sun expecting from us, it doesn't expect anything. Only if a generator works, these many lights work in this ground. These mics and sound systems will also work. It needs diesel. It needs igniting one. They brought that generator for rent. They need to pay rent for it every day. We have to pay the rent and purchase diesel for it. We, our ancestors, everyone from the previous generations have enjoyed this nature. What are we giving to the burning sun? How much rent are we paying? If we think how much we are paying for it, we are not paying anything. For the glowing sun, we are not paying anything. For blowing wind, we are not paying anything. Sky, land, water, fire. For all those that are in this nature, we are not paying anything. They are not expecting anything from us. Is God visible in them? Yes, dear ones. God is visible. He is not expecting anything from us out of what we are enjoying. For the food that you eat, for the happiness you enjoy, to fill your hunger, quench your thirst, to fulfill your happiness, God presented this nature, our Father. Our God is not expecting money from us. That is why Paul the Apostle is saying this verse from Romans 1st chapter 20th verse. His invisible attributes, namely His eternal power and the divinity in Him. Since the creation of this world, from the beginning of this world, the things that have been made, will you see a tree, will you see a whale, will you see a fish, will you see a star? Will you see the cultivated crops, will you see the blowing wind, will you see the raining clouds, will you see the glowing sun? From the creation of the world, when you think about the things that have been made, we can perceive, we can see Him. That is divinity. They are the attributes of God. Dear brothers and sisters, you read in Gospel of John, 12th chapter, 24th verse, right? A grain of wheat, unless falls into the earth and dies, it will remain alone. If it remains in a gunny or eaten by a bird, if it adrifts in floods, dry up because of sunlight, or burn in fire that seed, it will disappear alone. But if it dies, If it falls into the soil and dies, Jesus said it will bear more fruits. For whom? This verse is written for whom? It is not to satisfy your hunger. On one side, it is to satisfy your hunger. But on the other side, you should understand the great wisdom. You should note the divine wisdom. That means, after you die, you will be vastly fruitful. Think of it. This world is thinking that this life of 60 years that remains for a short period is a great one. Many are thinking that surviving these 60 years of life in this illusional world that remains for a short period of time as life. Dear ones, God is saying that it is very small. If you think as a grain, if you think yourself as the wheat grain for a while, He is saying you should die. If you die, if that grain falls into the earth, what will happen is that it will bear much fruits. It will bear much fruits. Do you want this life of 60 years or do you want an everlasting life? Our ancestors in the beginning were born as immortal, Adam and Eve. They did not know death. They did not have hunger or thirst. They did not have tears and did not have difficulties. That was in Eden Garden. Our primordial mother and father. When we think about the way God treated the primordial couple in Eden Garden, isn't it wonderful? They were immortal. They did not have death. They were to survive forever. By committing sin, they lost that great life. They lost it because they disobeyed God. Later, God gave them about 1,000 years. Even 1,000 years is great, isn't it? Today we survive for 60 to 70 years. Isn't those who survived for about 1,000 years great? Do you think that it is great? Do you think that surviving for 120 years during the floods in Noah's time is great? Do you think that surviving for 60-70 years now is great? No, dear ones. You have another life. You should not die being alone. You should not die being alone. If you fall into earth and die, you have a life that bears much fruits. In a small seed, will you believe that there is a huge tree? You should believe. You should believe. A banyan fruit, a red-colored fruit, and small seeds in it. A bird will eat that seed and travels to a long distance and drops it. It is invisible to our eyes, but then that seed germinates, grows into a plant, and grows into a huge tree. If you think that it is a banyan tree, if you think that it has thousands of years of life, you should know that there is a huge body from a small seed. From a small banyan seed, there is a great body, a body that has to survive for many more years. Similarly, in the small clay body, 60 to 70 years of this small clay body, there is a great life. That is what God is trying to tell here. Is your death an end? No, dear ones. Death is the beginning. World says death is an end. But God is saying to the world that death is a beginning. Death is the gate to life, He says. Bible is saying that death is the gate to life. Let us see once those seeds, how they are growing, to which shape they are transforming. Let us see once. The outer layer of the seed breaks. That small shape that is inside will die. Once it dies, a small root, a hair-like root goes down to ground, and a hair-like small sprout breaks out of land. Looking at it, it becomes a sprout, then plant, then tree. These are the true events occurring in front of our own eyes. Aren't you greater than them? Compared to a plant, to a bird, to a small creature in this nature, you are the greatest. A small caterpillar. It crawls with hairs covering its whole body. It looks very ugly. It saves itself for another form. It wants to transform into a butterfly. It wants to fly in air. As a caterpillar, it crawls on the land without any protection. They save themselves from birds, from animals, and from ants. Even though there are many dangers to its life, it saves itself carefully from them. But this caterpillar knows it has to transform into another form. Who taught a caterpillar that it has another form and it has to save itself until that transformation? Which science did it study? Did not study anything, but still knowing the future, that worm, it turns into a chrysalis. It will sleep in that stage for a few days. After that stage, when you look at it, it transforms into a beautiful butterfly. From a crawling stage without protection to its life, it transforms into a butterfly and flies very high places. That is the feature of a butterfly from a caterpillar. Do you want to know the features of God? Do you want to understand the features of God? Do you want to know His greatest wisdom? You should know that there is greatest wisdom of God behind it. Have you ever thought why God is doing all this in front of you? You are willing to catch hold of a butterfly, but because you cannot, you are purchasing a butterfly model and sticking it on your walls. But it possesses a great wisdom. It saves itself from all dangers from birds and animals. It knows that it transforms into another form of life and saves itself by developing a pupa. They are children of God. That is the wisdom of God. God is calling it as a great wisdom. What is that great wisdom? Read 44th verse. First letter to Corinthians, 15th chapter, 44th verse. Being sown as a natural body. That means you are being graved. Dear ones, a farmer takes seeds and sprinkles on the land. He is sprinkling them on a cultivated land. After sprinkling, will he sit on the quay and cry? But why are the people crying when a person dies? They have not understood. Why is a man crying when a person dies? That is why Jesus said, "Do not cry about me. I will rise again. I will rise again. Those who do not rise are your beloved ones. You will not rise after death. Why? You will live for the world and die. You will live for the world and die, and hence you will not rise." That is why Jesus said, "Cry for yourselves and cry for your children." So, dear ones, Paul wrote a good verse in the Bible. Let us now read that wonderful verse. Your body that is being sown into the soil as a natural body, it will rise as a spiritual body. Without this natural body, you will not get a spiritual body. Listen carefully and understand. Only by possessing this natural body, using this natural body in the nature for God, and only when this nature certifies that you are using your natural body for God, can you understand the link of your life? This nature has to certify us, stating that this child of you, God, lived for you. This nature should certify about you with God, saying, "My Lord, this child lived for you." This nature has to appreciate you. Why has God kept nature as invigilator on us? Why has God kept nature as your guardsman? You were born in this nature, you were brought up in this nature, but you are living for this nature. You are wearing the one around your neck that is taken from the soil, isn't it? You are praising the one that came from the soil, you are worshipping the one that came from the soil. You are running for mud throughout your life. Because of this, the nature certifies you as a futile person. Did you understand? So who do you think are guiding us now? Not the angels. Nature, the natural elements. These natural elements are looking at us. What were you doing from morning? What were you doing? You have left the Heavenly Father. You have forgotten your Father. You are running for those in the nature. What will you get from there? What do you want from there? Your Father is looking at you and safeguarded you in the nature and kept nature as an invigilator for you. That is why, do you know what nature is doing? Will you read it from the Bible? Read letter to Romans, 8th chapter, 19th verse. Letter to Romans, 8th chapter, 19th verse. Creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. Creation is watching. That means wherever you go, nature is at your feet and above is the sky. Every element in the nature is spying on you to know if you are the son of God or not. This creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. Where will you escape now, you tell me? Did you see who are invigilating on you? God has kept the nature as a witness on you. God has told the nature to invigilate you as to whether you are doing the will of God or not. See what he is telling to nature. Will you read? Book of Isaiah, 1st chapter, 2nd verse onwards. With whom is he talking? With whom is he discussing about us? With whom he is talking about us? Read it. Not with the angels. Hear, O heaven. Give ear, O earth. I have reared children, brought up them among you. But they have rebelled against me. Rebelled against me. They have rebelled against me and I do not need them now. Now I want my children. You have to see my children. That is why this nature is waiting eagerly, longing for the revealing of the sons of God. Who are the sons of God? Who are the sons of God? God came to Abraham. You are my son, right? Yes, Father. You do not have children, right? Yes, Father. Sarah's womb has worn out, Father. How will I get children? I have become too old. How will I get children? God said you will bear a child. I will surely return to you about this time next year. Sarah will have a son as my promise. As promised, Isaac was born. He was born. This nature has to look eagerly for revealing of children of God. This nature is watching. It is seeing Abraham. Isn't Abraham in the lap of the nature? God is talking to Abraham in the midst of this nature. He is seeing Abraham. He called Abraham. By then, Isaac was speaking with cute words. He was playing in the hands of his parents. He was a very small kid. He was a very small child. God said, Abraham, you have to sacrifice your only son to me. Nature was eagerly waiting for the reply of Abraham. Even God was looking for the reply of Abraham. Nature might have thought that Abraham would say, what is this, God? I did not have kids. You are the one who promised me. And you were the one who said that you will give me a child. As promised, you gave me a son. I nurtured him until now. And at this small age, is it right for you to ask him as a sacrifice? But Abraham did not question God. He did not question. He thought that if he informed this to his wife, she might object for this. So even without informing to his wife, he left to the land of Moriah with his 2 servants. He cut the woods for sacrifice, he saddled his donkeys, held a knife in his hand and traveled to the land of Moriah for 2 days. Nature is watching you. Nature is watching you. After reaching one of the mountains in the land of Moriah, he left his 2 servants down the mountain. He set them to stay there. He told them that he has to give a sacrifice, but did not say whom it was. He assembled the woods, held the knife in his hand. He held the fire in his hand, took Isaac and started to move on to the mountain. By then Isaac questioned Abraham, dear father, there is fire, knife and wood for sacrifice, but where is the lamb? When he questioned about the lamb, Abraham said, God will provide. Which heart can withstand listening to such words? Within a short span he is going to slay his only son, right? Can any father feel happy listening to such words? No, dear ones. That is the meaning of hard times. That is the meaning of testing time. That is the testing time. Have you come across such testing times in your life for God? When nature is eagerly watching for children of God and when God is eagerly watching for his children, on whose work are you spending your life, dear brothers and sisters? When this small kid questioned about lamb, Abraham's heart was driven. He said God will provide. He took Isaac to the mountain top in the land of Moriah. He built an altar. He arranged the woods. He tied Isaac and kept him on an altar and lifted his knife. Do you know why? He wished to fulfill the will of God. My God gave me a son after a long period of time, and now he is asking me to give him as a sacrifice. So why shouldn't I give him? He did not inform his wife, suspecting that she will oppose it. He did not inform it to his neighbors, thinking that they might not allow him to do that, or they might hide Isaac somewhere. Without informing anyone, he took his son with him to give him as a sacrifice. This father of believers, Abraham, was ready to do the will of God, but he never wished to fulfill his own will on this earth. Think of it. God wished for you. He wants you. He wants you alive, not as a corpse. Your alive body. The words from your mouth should be about Him. The thoughts in your mind should be about Him. Your hands are His and your ways are His. Everything should be for Him. Look at a good verse from Bible. Letter to Romans, 14th chapter, 7, 8 and 9. Look what wonderful words are written in those three verses. Letter to Romans, 14th chapter, 7, 8 and 9. For if we live, read from there. For if we live to the Lord. Even if we die, we have to die as God's people. Isn't it a beautiful verse? If we live, we have to live for God. Even if we die, we have to die for Lord. Whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's. For this end, Christ died and lived again. Still, for none of us lives to himself, and none of us dies to himself. 7, 8 and 9 verses. For none of us lives to himself, none of us dies to himself. That means, for those who die to himself, death is an end. But for those who die for God, death means a beginning. What a wonderful verse. What a wonderful verse. Let us read it again. For none of us lives to himself. None of us dies for himself. Even if we live, we have to live for God. Even if we die, we have to die for Lord. We have to die for Lord. Whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's. See what great security we have. God has given us this great security, that too in a form of a document. As a documentation, He has given it in a written form, expecting that you will live for God and die for God. Will you read the verse from Bible stating that those who die for God will survive? A wonderful verse. See how wonderful it is. Gospel of Luke, 17th chapter, 33. Whoever seeks to preserve his life, he will lose it. Listen carefully. Whoever seeks to enjoy his life on earth, whoever thinks of this life for 60 to 70 years and wish to preserve his life to enjoy on this earth, Jesus said he will surely lose it. Then, for the sake of God, who will lose it? Your life, your body, your shape, your tongue, your ears, your nose, your flesh. Those who lose it for the sake of God, Jesus said that they shall preserve it alive. This is a good news for those who think that they will die and there is nothing else after death. Children of God, even after you go into the soil, you will not go anywhere. You will be alive, says the Lord. What a wonderful verse, dear ones. Gospel of Luke, 20th chapter, 37-38. Gospel of Luke, 20th chapter, 37-38 verse. In the teachings of Christ, He said these words, God of Abraham. You read how he was ready to give Isaac as sacrifice and lifted his knife. When God sees Abraham that he is ready to do the will of God, why would he take his son as a sacrifice? He had to stand during the testing time, right? So what is God speaking about the father of believers? I am God of Abraham, God of Isaac, who was born from the loin of Abraham and was laid on the altar for sacrifice. I am the God of Jacob, who was born from the loin of Isaac. When were these words said? About 2000 years before Jesus spoke these words. By then it was about 2000 years after the death of Abraham, and for now it is almost 4000 years. You should listen carefully. In Gospel of Luke, Jesus spoke these words about 2000 years ago. By then, how many years passed after the death of Abraham? About 2000 years. We are reading the words written about 4000 years ago, even today. Still, what is God speaking about Abraham? I am the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Dead are raised. Even Moses showed he is the God of living, but not God of dead. For him, all are alive. Are you all alive? He wished that even a single sinner should not perish, but everyone should be saved and be in eternity. He wanted everyone to be alive. Everyone is alive. He said, I am God of Abraham. We will be alive. What a wonderful verse. Let us see another verse. Letter to Philippians, first chapter. Letter to Philippians, first chapter 20. Letter to Philippians, first chapter 20. Whether by my life, see what Paul is saying, whether by my life or by my death, Christ should be honored in my body. Christ will be honored in my body. For me to live is Christ, to die is gain. Why? To live again. For me to live is Christ, to die is, we think it is mourning, suffering, agony. But he is saying, for those who can understand this verse, death means nothing. That is why many sacrifice their lives with courage. With courage. What a wonderful verse. Have you dedicated your life for God? Are you arranging any programs in your body to do His work? You heard that a seed that dies and falls into the soil will transform into a huge tree that is evident to your eyes. With hairs on its body, an ugly caterpillar that crawls on the land without protection, that small worm will transform into a butterfly. This is evident to your eyes and you know about it. So do you think that you don't have another life? You don't have eternity? Will you not get that great life? You will get it. Your death is not your end.
ಜಯಶಾಲಿಯವರ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಹೊರಬಂದ ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಮಾನವ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಗಳನ್ನು ತಲೆಕೆಳಗೆ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಅದ್ಭುತ ಸಂದೇಶದ ಆಡಿಯೋ, ವಿಡಿಯೋ, ಸಿಡಿಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಡಿವಿಡಿಗಳಿಗಾಗಿ ಹಾಗೂ ಸಂಚಲನಾತ್ಮಕ ರಚನೆಗಳುಳ್ಳ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳಿಗಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಸಂಪರ್ಕಿಸಬಹುದು. ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಳಾಸ, ನಮ್ಮ ಫೋನ್ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್